What's going on, everyone? ODC here, and I'm back with another action figure review. Today's review, we're going to take a look at the Wicked Cool Toys slash Jazzwares Spartan collection. This is the Halo Master Chief action figure. That is a mouthful. It does say WTC, which stands for Wicked Cool Toys, on the back of the packaging. It doesn't really necessarily say Jazzwares anywhere, but it is technically Jazzwares Company. I think it's a separate division. But anyway, looking at Master Chief here, he looks pretty awesome. This figure is he aesthetically he is a great figure. He's got some functional issues, and then I have a couple issues of my own with the accessories. It might be personal opinion, but I don't really care. I think objectively, when you look at what I'm about to talk about with the accessories, then you'll understand where I'm coming from. When it comes to the figure itself, in hand, the feel of the figure, he feels solid. He doesn't feel, I don't have any loose joints on him or anything like that. And he, like I said, he does feel solid. He doesn't feel like a cheaply made toy. He doesn't feel like he's the Nature Valley toy where, or I like to call it NECA syndrome, where they just fall apart in your hand, kind of like Nature Valley granola bars do. He doesn't have that issue. He feels like if you threw him down a flight of stairs, which I don't recommend doing, if he did take a tumble, I feel like he'd be all right. My dogs are in the background, I know. But the figure aesthetically looks fantastic. I want to say this is one of the really nice looking Halo figures. Maybe the best is up for debate. That's entirely up to you guys, but to me, I really like this figure. What really grabbed me or gravitated me towards the figure, I was actually just walking through GameStop. That's where I picked this up, and it was I don't know if this is vac metallization, but it looks just really good. It's got a really nice shine to it, a really nice reflection to it as well. But it really grabbed me as far as the visor goes. Looks really good. Don't have any issues with that at all. The paint detail throughout the body is really nice and crisp. I feel like where there's weathering, it's necessary, and where there's not, it looks well. All the inner panels, all the black inner panels look really good. There's nice sculpting going on there. Over here on the shoulders, on the back, throughout the legs right here. Looks really good. So for the most part, I don't have an issue with the paint detail. Some people have issues with battle damage or paint weathering. I hear the same people complaining about the paint weathering and the paint detail are the same people that were complaining about the War for Cybertron Siege. Oh, I just want it to be crisp and clean. Well, I don't really like crisp and clean looking figures. I like to, if it's a war-based figure, I like them to look like they've been through war or been through some sort of battle. It's not a fashion show here, people. It's these are warriors. They're not going to look crisp and clean. I have news for you. So that's just my little thought process on that. As far as functional things go on the figure, let me just get this accessory out of his hand, which we'll get to the accessories in a bit because I have a whole segment I want to talk about those. But these little panels you'll see on the side of his legs, you'll see this one that's got its peg out, and it's kind of just a green plastic. But if you pop this off and flip it around, there's a peg hole right there, and it just pegs right in. So if you don't want to have him holster his gun on either side, and you can do either side right there. You can flip this side around if you wanted to. Only kind of issue with that is that if you did want to have, like the rifle on his leg, the peg hole is on the other side of the gun. So his rifle would be sitting on the awkward side of his leg. There's also a peg hole on the back, or a peg, excuse me, on the back, not a peg hole. So there's that, but same thing with the handgun. If you have this on here, it's going to be facing the opposite direction. Oop, that's not the right way to go. There we go, like that. Obviously, the other side you can still utilize. So I like to utilize this side and flip this one around, put that in there. It is a little bit loose when you flip these around and they don't have the peg sticking outward. I think it's pretty cool that they did that. I think there's still some room to grow with that. And I find myself saying that quite a bit when it comes to this Halo figure, is that it's like they've almost hit every mark. But there's just a few things that are just some issues that I feel like, because this is such a young toy line, they could go back, fix these things, and then maybe re-release the figure when it's like perfect. So this would be one of them. Like, just make sure that these sink in a little bit better. That would be nice as far as that goes. So that's pretty much it for the side panels right there. I'm just going to peg that back in so it's flush, nice and flush again. But moving on to the figure itself, as far as his articulation does go, Master Chief can move his head side to side just like that. He can also look up about that far. He can look down about that far. He does have a little bit of a tilt going side to side. No jive turkeys at all. No gobbles. Arms can go up about that far. And you do have this kind of pliable plastic right here. So he can actually put his arms up pretty well. Down, full 360 rotation in the arm. He does have a bicep swivel. He does have a double joint elbow. It's a very odd elbow, and it's kind of hindered right here when you're trying to put his arms completely straight. It's kind of always stuck in this bent, a slightly bent pose. So you, like, when he's aiming down his pistol, he kind of has this slightly bent pose all the time. You can't get this any more straight than it already is. So that's kind of an issue I have. But the double jointed elbows work very well. It's not the best looking double jointed elbow. It looks a little unnatural there, but you know, I'm not going to nitpick. It's a toy at the end of the day. I'm not going to nitpick that. As long as he gets his range of motion, that's good for me. The wrist can swivel, and it can hinge back and forth. There's no up and down, and I'm pretty sure that's the same with all of the hands. They're just kind of side to side. Here's where we get into some issues. The whole torso piece kind of sucks. I'm just gonna be honest here. It's very hindered going side to side of the diaphragm, and it doesn't really want to crunch. This is about all you're getting. This, and it doesn't really make a difference. Even when you push back, it just wants to go back to the neutral pose pretty much. The issue with that, and I'm just going to take the figure apart for a second. Just want to pop that off and then pop this off. The major issue there is this piece right here. This is the culprit. This is the major issue as to why this thing will not crunch. This is kind of like a, I guess you want to call it a gasket or a buffer. And not really a gasket, true, but a buffer for the peg to kind of sit evenly on the torso. So if you take this off and you were to put this on like so, this would just flop all over the place and flop around everywhere. If you take this, obviously that's what the whole point of this is, and you put it on there, it settles it in. Now that's great and all, but what they didn't engineer was the fact that you can't move the torso. Even when you try to twist the waist, this is about all you get. And it even wants to come undone sometimes. So that's kind of an issue there with the torso piece, and I feel like I said, that's room to grow during the line. I feel like they could fix that and then, you know, progress as a toy line. So I'm not too upset about it. I'm kind of annoyed that you can't really get him into those poses that you really need. You could go back and shave this piece down, kind of like Dremel in right here. That's entirely up to you guys. You could end up making your figure pretty loose if you do that. But like I said, if you want to revert to a video, I'll just say check out T-Man 978's movie video about how he customized his Master Chief so he could have a little bit more of an ab crunch. And even then, after his customization, it was pretty hindered still. I mean, he got a little bit of a nav crunch, but I mean, at the end of the day, is it worth almost breaking your figure? I don't know. Personally, I think I'm just going to leave it the way it is, and I'm fine with it. I don't need him to do the most dynamic poses. I just need him to do the poses that I want. So, but the option's still out there, and you can go be sure to check out T-Man's video. Anyway, moving on. Like I said, the waist swivel really does suck, and then the diaphragm joint kind of sucks. So that's the weak point on the upper torso. Lower torso, though, we got some good stuff here. Really good splits. Legs go forward. Legs go back a little bit, not too much. Upper thigh swivel, really good upper thigh swivel that's actually kind of covered up here and hidden. That's really good. Double jointed knee, a really good range of motion in that double jointed knee. And then we have a ankle pivot right here. We have a point of the toe, which isn't the best range of motion either, but you know, it points to heel. And then we also have toe articulation, which I'm actually not a big fan of toe articulation, and I've let people know that in the past. It just doesn't age well as far as articulation goes. We've seen that with a lot of the old Toy Biz figures in the past. They get loose over time, and then they just kind of want to topple over. So toe articulation isn't a necessity for me, but I guess it's nice to have. I'm just kind of glad that Jazzwares is moving away, or sorry, Wicked Cool Toys is moving away from the articulated hands. I don't like articulated hands on $20 figures. It just never works out properly. So fixed hands, I'm perfect. You want to give me a bunch of hands and stuff? Great. Awesome. Fantastic. So decent articulation here. Range of motion, you know, the arms are kind of, you know, good range of motion, but the articulated points where they end up, this half bent static pose, I don't know if I really like that, but he can still aim down the sights and such, which brings me to kind of my next issue, which would be the accessories. So I'll get to the good stuff first, then we'll get to the bad after. The hands are the good point. I like this kind of pointer finger that we get. We only get one of these, but we do get it. It's kind of like a directional, like go this way. So that's pretty cool. And then we have our fist hands right here. We have two of these, which those are really, really nice sculpts on those. And all the sculpts are pretty similar. And then we have our open hands, left and right. And I should switch these over here like that. But there we have our left and rights for those. And then we have our two trigger finger hands, which are kind of almost pointing fingers. You kind of have to manipulate the finger a little bit, and you can manipulate the finger, which is good. It's just a little odd that they're kind of just a straight posed finger sticking out, but they still do their job at the end of the day. And those all plug in really nicely. They're not too hard to get out, and I just broke that on camera. That is unbelievable. Did I just break that? I did. That's wonderful. Now I have to get my stuffs out and get this peg out, which I hope I can do. There we go. Oh boy. So I'm going to have to repair that. All right. So now this just went down even further. Oh man, this is a real shame. I was just about to commend them with good hand joints, and I've had this figure for a few days now, and I haven't had any issues taking the joints out. Maybe they are a little bit just too tight going in and out. I haven't had any issues with any of these others, but this hand is like, if I put this back in, it's not coming out. Like, that's a wrap for this finger, or for this hand, excuse me. It's I had to get this back in, and as you can see, it's warped now like crazy. And I've been trying as hard as I can to kind of get this to kind of settle back in. But I know for a fact that if I put this trigger finger hand back in there, it's over for that. So what I might do is I might try to get away with, I might use this pointer hand and get that in there. But the hands are interchangeable. I would definitely, and I heated this up before I started doing the review. It must have just got cold again, and just be careful when you're pulling this out. And I wasn't using too much force. I know how to pull hands out. Some people ham fist stuff, and I usually don't. And what I usually like to do is I like to take my finger, put it right here, and just kind of go back and forth and slide it out. For some reason, this just did not want to do that. So this hand is essentially useless now to me. Here's what the fist hands look like. Right there. That's a fist hand for you. That is very, very disappointing. Very disappointing. And it's not anything that I did. It's just the joint was just already, must have been loose. I don't know. Here's the open hand. I mean, it's like now I'm even afraid to kind of, yikes, with that side. And maybe it's just defective. I don't know. But none of these other hands are doing that. So I guess I'm just going to have to use this hand for what I wanted to use before. This is kind of that gesturing, pointing hand, like so. But something to point out, definitely look out for that. I'm glad it happened on camera, because yikes, magoo. Or you could have this kind of like he's holding on to, he's trying to talk to somebody. Cortana, But yeah, that's unfortunate. That is very unfortunate. I'm trying to like this figure, and it seems like a little frustrating. Anyway, moving on to the other parts of the accessories. We just went from bad, now we're going to worse, apparently, with these figures. And I ordered both waves, so I'm kind of a little nervous with the other figures if, they couldn't get Master Chief right. And hopefully the other figures are better. We'll see in the future. But he does come with a handgun, a pistol. So there you go with the pistol. The pistol I don't really have that much of an issue with. It's a pistol. It'll peg into the sides like I showed before. Or I guess you could peg it into the back as well if you wanted to. So there's that, if you wanted to do that. And then over here we have his rifle, right here. And I like the sculpt of it. The issue with this is it's not really the sculpt and detail. It's kind of the functionality of the rifle, because the rifle itself really is too thin of a sculpt. The detail on it looks great. The sculpt of it's kind of like crooked. It was already crooked in package. It was way worse. It was like this before, like really bad. And this is like a rubbery plastic. And if we all know what rubbery type plastic is like, because that's what they use a lot for Marvel Legends. This is more rubbery than Marvel Legends. I didn't think it could get much more rubbery, but it is. And as you can see here, like this little piece right here is kind of, it looks like a sight, but it's not. It also shows, how much ammunition and such and different metrics for the gun. And they didn't do any detail for that. It's just very bleh, when it comes to the feel of this weapon. It's not fun to even put in his hands. And it's like really rubbery. I mean, really rubbery. I can do that. And it's just not fun. The other issue is when you're putting this gun in his hands, because he's got these straight fingers, you have to bend the finger and then bring the rifle down to kind of settle in. And then it's like wobbly as shit. Like it's just, I don't understand what they were thinking with this really crappy plastic. It's just too thin. So it's got to be at least bulky if you're going to do this kind of rubbery type plastic. A little bit of bulk would help this. Also with pegging in, the pistol's a little bit easier to peg in than the rifle, because the rifle's so damn skinny. Even when you peg it into his legs, like on his back, it's like super duper loose, and it wants to just fall off. Like, it doesn't sit well. And I'm pushing it in. Sometimes it'll stay, and then other times it just wants to wobble out. So I don't know. Like, it's very odd choice. I would have went with a harder plastic for this. Even with the issues with harder plastics possibly snapping, I'd rather have him at least have this rifle settle in his hand properly, as opposed to when he holds it and two-hands it, it kind of wants to bend. As you can see, it's like bowing right here. That's not fun. And it bends really easily. So you almost have to like push his hand back. And then when you want to get him into when you get him into a pose where he's looking down the sights, it's just not fun to really pose him with this weapon. It's just doo-doo brown. It's terrible. This is the drizzling shits. And like, he'll do it, but look at this. Ugh, I hate it. So maybe I could track down some of the McFarlane weapons from the past, and hopefully they're in scale. But I don't like the way that these weapons are set up, and hopefully Wicked Cool Toys / Jazzwares can fix this issue and give us some better weaponry than or at least the quality for the weaponry than this. I feel like this is not deserving of being with a $20 toy. It's not fun doing this stuff. So, yeah, not really that fun with the accessories. The pistol, he holds a lot better in his hand. And let me just show you that. You kind of have to push the finger into the hole. But he will hold that pistol nicely. Come on, get your hand right, please. Get your hand right. So there's that. You can kind of get him into like a, I don't know, some weird, crazy dynamic pose that's probably not very tactical, but he'll hold a pose nice, and like the butterfly joints right here, which I didn't include in the articulation. I'm a dumbass, but they are functional and they do work. So, he can get into those poses. When you have him kind of holding his pistol like this, though, and he's kind of, I don't know, let's pose him really quick. Let's get those ankles right. When you get him like this, I mean, it looks okay, and then when you go from the side, it's like, whoa, what the hell is this? That's because the elbow can't get perfectly straight. So you kind of have to use, I don't know, photo manipulation to kind of get him really looking like he's shooting. Even there, it still looks a little awkward. Like, I don't know. It just looks a little weird. But, like I said, this figure, it's far from perfect. There's definitely some flaws. With every figure, there's flaws. No figure's perfect. I get that. I'm really bummed out that one of the hand hinges just snapped on it. Granted, I fixed it, but still, it's kind of unusable now, because if I put that peg back in the arm, it's just stuck there, and I can't take it out. And that's kind of a bummer, because aesthetically, this figure looks great. It's too bad. Okay, as far as size comparisons go, we've got a couple figures here. On the right, we've got a Star Wars Black Series Hoth Rebel Trooper, and then on the left, we've got a Super 7 New Japan Pro Wrestling Hiroshi Tanahashi. Tanahashi's closer to the 7-inch scale. He's a little bit taller, so he scales a little bit better with Master Chief. Master Chief's supposed to be like 7 feet tall, so he's supposed to be like huge. But that's how they scale together. Okay, next up we've got a Mafex Batman on the right, and then we have a DC Multiverse McFarlane Batman on the left. Okay, next up we've got another wrestler in the Flashback 98 Triple H on the left from the WWE Elite line. On the right we've got a Eric Killmonger Marvel Legend. Okay, and next up we've got two Supermans. We've got on the right we've got the McFarlane Superman, and then on the left we have the NECA Superman. Okay, and last up, yes, I know it's a PlayStation character and an Xbox character, but we've got God of War NECA action figure, and then on the left we've got the SH Figuarts Ken from Street Fighter. Okay, so my final thoughts for Master Chief here is, oh man, it's a tough one. I I actually went into this review with really liking this figure, and now I'm going to be honest with you, I'm kind of a little bit let down. There's a hand breakage issue right on camera. There was just the accessories. I hate this rifle. This is one of the worst rifles I have ever owned from a toy. They got to start using harder plastics. These are just they're some of the worst. The hands don't like holding them in. He doesn't like holding it in his hand. I'm not a fan of it at all. I'm going to try and see if I can find a McFarlane one, but I shouldn't have to. Like, this should have already been in the pack, correctly done. How this got past QC, I don't know. Toy testers should have at least looked at this and been like, yeah, we gotta go a little bit thicker with the weaponry. I just don't like these weapons at all. It's annoying that now I have to track down rifles from another toy line entirely and hope that they fit the scale. The peg holes on both guns are very shallow, and they don't like to stay pegged in. I don't know. This is a very frustrating figure. I want to like it, and aesthetically he looks great, but I feel like other than him just standing on a shelf, maybe doing a pose, one pose or two, he's not really all that fun. I got to be objective, and I got to be honest with you guys. It is a $20 figure, but it's kind of a letdown at the end of the day. Hopefully, Wicked Cool Toys, Jazzwares, whatever you want to call them, can fix this. They can right the ship. I already picked up both waves, so when I get those eventually, I don't know. I hope that the other figures are better, but I got to give this one. If I have to give this one, I'll give it a thumbs up and just say buyer beware, especially with my hinge joint breaking. So be careful with that. The price point, it's $20, and it's $19.99 actually at GameStop. That's what I paid for this guy right here. Like I said, bright points are the paint detail's really good. The sculpt on him's really nice. The articulation is okay, could be better. The range of motion in certain points could definitely be better. The ab crunch is not not very good. The elbows or the arms not being able to go fully straight should be rectified. And the lower leg articulation, I really don't have too many issues with. I like the lower leg articulation and range of motion. It's just some of the upper range of motion. And the butterfly joints work really well on this, I'll say that. I love the head sculpt. The head sculpt, I think, is what really caused me to buy this figure. That head sculpt is perfect. I love it. I don't know if, like I said, if it's vac metal for the visor, but it looks fantastic. Like I said, this is a nice figure aesthetically, but I think once you start realizing the flaws of the figure, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I see what he was saying here. So it's a little bit of a frustrating figure. It's not a terrible figure by any means. People throw around the term terrible. I don't think the figure itself is terrible. I think the weaponry makes him kind of, the drizzling a little bit. The weapons themselves are the drizzling shits, but the figure itself, I wouldn't say is horrendous. I have had worse figures, much worse figures, but I'm sticking to my one thumb up. It's not that great overall as a total package, and not Lex Luger. But that's pretty much it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.